Hi there, everyone. How are you? Hope you are feeling good on whatever day it is today, because I have lost track of the days, because here where I am in New South Wales, it is school holidays. And between work and kids and all that kind of stuff, I just do not know what's going on. But what I do know is that Dr. Deb and I will be talking all about impetigo today, and otherwise known as school sores. And I find myself at the beginning of all of these going, this is a subject close to my heart because,
Exactly,
and you know what,
Sarah.
yeah, I know all the time. And you know what, I was actually laughing to myself last night when my youngest daughter came up to me and said, Mum, my nose is feeling a bit sore.
Really?
She actually scratched herself, and I looked and went, you've got impetigo.
Oh no, she could have given the talk tonight.
I could not believe it. So anyway, we could talk about that in a minute. How about we introduce ourselves first? For those who are new to joining us, my name is Sarah Hunstead. I am a paediatric nurse and founder of CPR Kids. And I'm joined today by Dr. Deb Levy, who is a fabulous paediatrician. And Deb, why don't you introduce yourself as well, because you'll do a better job than I will.
Thanks, Sarah. And as always, so great to be here chatting with you. So yes, my name is Dr. Deb, and I am a holistic pediatrician and a mum to two young girls. Mine are 4 and 6. I have a particular interest in nutrition and lifestyle and how it impacts on our children, and also on empowering you as parents to really help your children to thrive. So let's dive into today's topic, which is all about school sores, also known as impetigo.
Exactly. Now, before we do go any further, can I just ask everybody who's viewing at the moment, because we did have a few little difficulties before we joined, can I just have a thumbs up or a wave, anything like that, just to let us know that you can hear and see us well. Remember, if you can't join us for the whole time, we will be posting these on the Baby to Toddler Show page, the CPR Kids page, and the Dr. Deb Levy page as well. So please make sure that you do come back and watch it another time, and please tag anyone down below who you think needs this really valuable information as well. So please remember, this is always good evidence-based info, because that is what we are all about.
Exactly. So, and I'll just add on, if anyone would like to ask a question, we will do our best to answer it at the end of the talk. So just type away in the comments and we will come to it.
Okay, fantastic. Excellent. Now, school sores. Yep. So,
okay. So school sores are a bacterial infection of the skin. The two most common bacteria involved are Staph aureus or Strep pyogenes. A little bit more common to have Staph. So who gets it, and how do they get it, and what does it look like? It's school-aged children is the classic, hence the name. It's also named that because it's so contagious, so it can spread throughout schools. How do you get it? Often it'll be, they're kind of two ways. Either there's already a break in the skin, so the skin barrier has been affected, and then the bacteria then go into that break and start multiplying and cause the infection. The other way is that it can actually just start, and it will start as a little bump and then turn into a blister, and then the blisters themselves will crust over. Sorry, that's my computer starting up, which is part of our tech difficulties. Sorry. That'll then crust over, and it'll form what's called a golden crust, and that's quite what we call pathognomonic, which is very indicative of Staph impetigo. And if you've seen it once, you know exactly what it looks like. Exactly. Sarah's nodding her head, and I know she's also got some great photos to show you, which we can flick to now. And classically, it will happen around the nose, face area, mouth as well as the limbs, you know, whether it's a scratch on the leg or just starting on its own. It can also affect children with eczema quite badly. So in any site that they'll have eczema, they can get impetigo as well. So this is very, very classic. You see, you can see that golden crust, and as I said, in the nose area. Exactly right. Let's look at other pics you've got, Sarah.
And that is my child at the moment. So she has just this little bit of golden crust just on the edge of her nose. So and it's from a scratch. So the skin was scratched, was broken, and this is what's happened.
Exactly.
So here we go. We've got some more impetigo here.
Is that under a chin? Yes, it looks like.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm using my phone, so my visuals aren't as great. But yes, as you can see again, that I wonder if there's a bit of underlying eczema there actually. That's secondary impetigo. Looking at that.
There is. So when I found a picture from Skin Deep, which is a fantastic initiative of Don't Forget the Bubbles, so where we've sourced these pictures from, yes, so there is some underlying eczema there as well. And I was hoping that you would be able to answer that as well in it. I've got a question for you. But first of all, let's move on. This I have had on my oldest child when she was a toddler. She used to be that kid who was constantly licking and rubbing across her chin.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, it's funny you should say that. I've actually just literally posted something on my Instagram stories about this. So, about the contact dermatitis that children can get, from saliva. And then this one you can see has become secondarily infected by the bacteria causing impetigo.
Yep, exactly. And so that was a big
And that looks like a child who sucks a dummy as well. You can see their teeth are quite, that looks like a dummy.
Interesting. So this is a particularly nasty case, I thought, of impetigo here. Certainly we haven't experienced that in our house, but that's quite a nasty one.
It is, yeah.
And
we can talk about treatment as well, and we can reflect back on these photos and say what kind of treatment the different severities would need. And again, that's a very classic one, isn't it, Sarah?
Yep, it sure is. This is one we've certainly had. And when in my experience in the emergency department, when I have seen kids like this is when they have presented to emergency, when it's just gotten out of control and the GP has referred them in. Because this, it can be itchy, it can be painful, and
that's
so
exactly right. So in terms of the symptoms, Sarah's got head on. It's itchy and can be very painful. And the problem with the itch is that they then scratch it, and that's how it spreads as well. So I did mention it's highly infectious. That means you should be washing your hands thoroughly. No one should be sharing any bath towels, utensils around dinner time, toys, anything like that your child could potentially have touched. And depending on the lesion itself, it may also warrant being covered. Obviously that the last picture we saw, when it's all over their face, it's not practical. But often it is just something on the knee or the elbow, and then definitely I would say it should be covered to prevent spread.
So that's an important thing as well. So we've shown you pictures of kids' faces because that's quite a common place, but it's not always on a child's face that they will end up with the impetigo. So exactly that, it can be on knees, it can be on other places as well. So it's not restricted. So if I see the beginnings of impetigo on my child, what am I looking at? What would I see when it's just starting to come up, where I might get a little bit suspicious?
Yeah. So it's often that redness. So it's a red bump that then becomes a blister or what we call a pustule, which looks like there's pus underneath, so it's yellower, and then it sloughs off and you get that crust. So it kind of goes through those stages, but it does initially just start as a red spot, a red splotch.
Okay. So what are we going to do? Obviously, if it's like some of those pictures where it's extensive, we need, medical help, of course. But if it is just those couple of little dots, or perhaps that little bit around the nose, what are we going to do?
Yeah. So there are stages of treatment. So the initial stage, if it's really, really mild, you're really just washing it with soap and water, and you don't need anything else. If there is a crust there, the important thing is you want to get that crust off. And that would be the least painful way, I would say, is to soak in water. If it's an awkward spot, you can use cotton pads to keep it to wet it, and then just gently brush it off. If it's
there are two types of mothers here, by the way. There are the mothers who find it incredibly satisfying to get rid of that, and there's the other type of mother who just goes, "Oh my God, that's gross." I'm the satisfied camp.
Then I need you to pull out my daughter's front tooth, which is just so wobbly. I can't do it. Anyway.
I would do that.
Exactly. Back to the topic. So if it's really mild, that's often sufficient. And again, those measures to prevent the spread and to prevent the scratch. The next stage, if it starts to get worse, and that would look a bit redder, more areas involved, the crust would be more extensive, then we would use an antibiotic cream. So at that point, you're seeing your doctor anyway to definitively diagnose it and then to recommend the cream. In Australia, we usually use Bactriban, Mupirocin ointment cream. And again, the important thing is to apply it after the crust has been removed, after that scab has been removed. Otherwise, it doesn't have an effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really important. What I found effective with my kids was exactly what Deb has just said. I would soak a face washer in warm water, pop it on there, very gently remove that, and then that face washer was going straight in a hot wash. Yeah. Do not leave it laying around.
Yeah. And in terms of soaking and baths, and I guess this also touches a little bit on eczema treatment, but there's a group of people who talk about using bleach baths and whether that's effective. I'm personally not a fan of bleach baths. I don't feel the evidence is strong enough. But there are other ways to try and shift, again, that pH of the skin to try and help the bacterial load to improve. So, just to flag that for you. However, if the eczema gets worse, so here we're talking about those children in the pictures we saw where it really was very extensive, or if you've got one spot that becomes very inflamed and infected. And what we're looking for there is surrounding redness, swelling, tenderness, pain. And that can actually evolve to something called cellulitis, which is a deeper infection in the skin. And this is something that should be monitored by your doctor. So, don't worry about it in terms of, what you don't need to diagnose it. All you need to go is, oh my goodness, this isn't getting better, or this is actually getting worse. And in that case, we prescribe antibiotics. That would classically be something like Keflex or Augmentin, or if your child's allergic, something like erythromycin. The thing is that we don't want to overprescribe oral antibiotics for a couple of reasons. One being, the more we prescribe, the more resistance that forms, and the more resistant bacteria. You know what I'm saying? Resistant bacteria. That's what I'm trying to say. And certainly that's been the case already with impetigo. But if your child needs it, they need it, and that's why we hold it for those children who really need it.
Exactly. So my child has the impetigo. The doctor has given us some cream for this. When can I send them back to daycare or school? That is the magic question.
When it's all better is usually what they say. So when there's no more crust, is what the other way to look at is if they're on oral antibiotics, it can be a bit sooner than that. But that's usually when we say they can go back.
Fantastic.
It can take a bit of time.
Yeah, exactly. It does, but it's important. And the important thing is too, of course, that, if it is in an area where you can cover it. And that's an important thing. So I will put a link down below to a fact sheet on impetigo only, but I want you to do is please go over to Deb's Instagram page and have a look at all of the fantastic resources and information that she's actually just put up, because I've been following all of this week, particularly on eczema and things like that and other skin things. So please go and have a look at those as well. Very, very helpful. But what I'd like to do is, if anybody has any questions, please just type them in the comments below now and we will endeavour to answer them. So we do have, perhaps not a question, but a statement that deserves to be showed from Rachel, who says, impetigo ruined their holiday in Fiji, covered her child's face with 50-cent size sores and no treatment available. Oh no. Yeah, that's really not fun. Rachel, that would really suck a lot. That's terrible. I too have been in Fiji with a sick child, and even though Fiji is magical, it's not quite magical enough to make it fun when you've got a really sick child there. Yeah, exactly. So if there aren't any other questions, remember what we'll do, I'll pop the fact sheet down below. Holly has asked a question. Thank you, Holly. Just to confirm, do you always need to seek medical treatment? Deb, do you want to just summarise that again?
if it's very mild, in other words, it's a tiny little bit around the nose, probably in that first picture, I think it would suffice to try at home just with gentle cleaning to remove the scabs. Yep. If, however, it persists beyond a few days or it starts to spread, then absolutely I would be looking at antibiotic ointment.
Yep, fantastic. That's a great question. Thank you, Holly. I'm able to clarify that. So, yeah, and be careful of yourself too, because I have ended up with impetigo when my children have. When they're younger, when they have obviously scratched, they've got it. I haven't realised, and they've gone and they actually, it's just hands on me, and I must have had, I ended up with impetigo all over here because I must have, whether it's a scratch or an accident or whatever. Be careful of yourself. You will get it too. Okay. So be very, very careful. Pardon?
Wash hands.
And clip their nails.
Yes.
Clip the nails.
Yeah.
One more question before we go. Magda has said, how quickly does it develop?
Usually over the span of a few days. I'm sure Sarah can tell you what she's seen now. So did you notice anything yesterday, Sarah?
So yesterday I noticed that she just had a little red mark here. In saying that, though, she's an artist, and so she had, she loves it, so thin, and she had red paint, purple paint, like all bits all over her because she'd been painting watercolors all day, and I just put it down to that. Then after the bath, when she came out, I noticed that this was still red, and I just went, here we go. And by this morning, we've got the little yellow crust there.
Yeah. So, she probably scratched it in the night as well for it to.
I have no doubt she scratched it in the night.
Yeah, and answered your question.
yeah, I think so. So, and Tammy has asked, as the yellow scabs form, do you wait until it's a clear yellow to remove, or as it hardens?
I'm talking about removing the hard scab. So that's what we typically call the golden crust. If you're just talking about the liquid, is that? I think that's what you're saying. Sorry, I can't read the question again, as it's so teeny tiny on my phone. Yellow. Yeah. So I would say it's anything that's crusty, that's hard, needs to be removed, because what we do, all that crusty stuff is it's forming a barrier to the cream having effect. If it's a liquid, you could dab it off and then put the cream on.
Yeah, perfect. And one more question from Jade, which says, is it possible to get them only in one armpit and nowhere else, not even the face, despite scratching? I'd say that's good.
100% positive. 100% you can get it just in one spot, and I've often just seen it in one spot. Random like that.
Yeah, because there does need to be a break in the skin, doesn't there? So if they're not scratching to break the skin, then that is a good thing, I think. I'd say that's awesome.
Yeah, lucky. Probably doesn't feel lucky, but lucky it's not worse. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for all of your questions and joining us today. We love talking about this stuff. Remember, same time next week for the next infectious disease that we will be talking about, which off the top of my head, I can't remember what one we've actually scheduled for next week. Hand, foot, and mouth. Yay. This is awesome because we've had hand, foot, and mouth how many times through our family? So is it? Oh, come on. Are you serious?
My children just get a bit of a snotty nose. That's it. Touch wood.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Goodbye.
You got nothing to say to that, I know. Thanks everyone for joining us. We hope you found it useful, and we will see you next week. Before our social medias. Bye. Bye.